Okay, so here's to the first episode, live, whatever, of this, in your element. So this is us talking about Capricorn season. Like we're in the midst of it. We're close to the end, but not officially until like the 18th, and I want to say a couple hours into the 19th. But like Capricorn season, ideally is about like getting your shit together. I feel like it is like I said in
Mhm.
that video, like it's a review of the year, but it's like, hey, looking at the highs, assess like I see it as like assessing the highs and lows of stuff that takes place. But you being a Capricorn, as Capricorn
Mhm.
Sun, as well as multiple other planets, how many planets are in Capricorn for you?
I believe it's about 6 planets. So it's
Like,
what BCE, big Capricorn energy over here.
like, no lie. If you wanted to make a reel on here, you could do one like with your chart in the background. As you go down, it's like the
Mhm.
sound. Do a flip. Do a flip. Just like, yep, Capricorn's daughter. That's why it's labeled
Sounds
that
like
Capricorn's daughter. So, with that,
got
like,
you.
where do I have my little list of things? So,
Which is
you
sweet
have all
because
these
I am
planets.
a daddy's girl a little bit. So
Oh, that's sweet. Because definitely, like, Saturn is associated with the father, one of its associations. So, big ups onto that. But with having like 6 placements in Capricorn in your second house, so given the fact of knowing like your big three, you are a Capricorn Sun, Gemini Moon, as
Mhm.
well as a Sagittarius rising, like me.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to talk to you and have like a idea of sense of relation to life, but also seeing like you're a 29-degree Sagittarius rising. So if you're born a couple of seconds later, you would have been like a whole Capricorn, like huge ass
Ah,
energy.
so
So, but
talk
with
to
having all this stuff in your second house, so if people don't know what the second house is relative to like materials, like things that provide you comfort, how you go about securing those things of comfort, finances, X, Y, and Z, and understanding that sense of value and well being for yourself. So, Capricorn, for me, I think of like things get better with time, ultimately, with Capricorn, the Saturn rule. Ideally, anything that Saturn touches, it kind of delays or restricts the like functionality of those planets.
Mhm.
So, having all of those planets in your second house of finances, like security, well being, your self value, do you feel like it's been something that you've grown, like have like gotten better with time, experience wise?
I mean, I would say so, but I know like growing up, my mom always like heavily emphasized like saving your money and making sure your credit was good. So like there was already that um nurture on top of the nature part. And now I feel like I definitely appreciate being comfortable and making sure that I have a space to be comfortable in. And it is like one of my priorities, like, okay, what are my basic needs so I can have or maintain my sanity and just like have my space, and make it a sacred space. So like that is very important to me. And like I do, it's like sometimes I do feel like whenever I see the skits about the horoscope signs and Capricorn comes up, and there's like one guy that I follow, I forget his name right now. I wish I could remember to like at them, but basically it's like I'm a Capricorn. I love money. Give me the money. And it's like I do like money, but it's more like I like the comfort that money can provide and offer more so than like the money itself. And then that, which also makes me think about how, like, whenever I was reading about Capricorns, like early on, I would kind of get ruffled a little bit whenever I would read that we were materialistic. But now that I've gotten older and like more mature in it, I feel like maybe it's just materialism for me in a different light. Because it's not that I just like want things just to have them around, because I really do feel like a minimalist, but the things that I do have, I want them to be like really high quality. So like name brands don't really mean a whole lot to me unless it's like, what is it being put behind that name brand? What type of materials are you using? Is it going to be long lasting? Is it going to be like worth the money that I am paying you for, which is basically my energy. So is this worth my time and energy that I'm basically giving you for this product? Is kind of like, I think, how my materialism works. But does that answer everything?
No, it definitely does. Like it gives me the big thing about Capricorn is like quality. Like especially
Mm-hmm.
you having on top of that, your Venus is at 0 degrees. So 0 degree mark is like the true essence of a sign. So that's what I've read or what I've heard about. So having Capricorn Venus, just like okay, really having wanted to have quality and having
Mm-hmm.
time. So the emphasis like what's the time being put behind that. So definitely seeing your Mars in that and your Mercury going into that, having that depth of knowing like, hey, what's being put behind the products or materials going into that and having good
Mm-hmm.
quality into it. So no, I see that really
That's
speaking for
cool.
Capricorn in that bubble of self. So speaking of like Mercury, I want to say Mercury moved into Capricorn today. So with Mercury being a planet of communication, how you go about giving information, receiving information, as well as like the sense of navigation, calculation, formulation, thoughts, intellect, like writing style, all of that can go into like the description of Mercury and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And having that in Capricorn, like the mind, like understanding like, hey, Saturn rule, things get delayed. How do you feel when it comes with communication? You feel like there's thought like put behind, well, I feel like it's thought put behind words, but with Capricorn, it's an element can be associated with coldness. So do you feel like communication can be cold with
I get that a lot. Like, well, let me start by saying this first, because I feel like, for one, I am definitely very blunt and straightforward, and partially because I feel like if I answer simply, then that gets to the root of what we're talking about, and then we can move on to the next thing. And then also it alleviates confusion, and I don't know if that's just because of my personality or if I'm just, neurospicy and that's why. But also with my communication, I feel like I take a lot of time, or I put a lot of effort into making sure that the words that I say or use are very specific because I want to convey a very particular message and I want to make sure that it's conveyed in that way. And I feel like, I guess maybe growing up, that whatever I was saying got misconstrued or taken out of context. So I usually end up getting very specific about the word choice that I have and the diction. And then because of that, people are like, whoa, 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 sometimes. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I'm just making an observation, you know? But, and maybe in those ways, it can come off a little cold because sometimes I will try to soften up what it is that I'm trying to say, but then I feel like the message of what I'm saying is being lost. So I'm like, okay, fuck all the fluffy stuff. This is what I really wanted to say. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, so we can move on now that we're all on the same page. It's typically how my communication goes.
I feel it. Like I'm not gonna hold you. One time we were in grad school. So people who don't know, me and Nia went to school together. We went to school in undergrad as well as grad school. So we had a project one time, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to work on it together?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, but you don't need to be lazy and not get your shit done." And I was just like,
Damn.
what made you think that? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And he was like, yeah. And I actually like later on, you like, yeah, I just noticed you just don't be on your shit. I was just like, oh shit.
Damn.
Okay, well,
And I was probably also scarred from this girl in like fifth grade who also basically made me do the entire project. And I let us both be on that project because I was like, I'll be fucking damned if I do this entire thing by myself in fifth grade. So
well, yeah, like no lie, I was just like, yeah, I have to prove you wrong. So I hope I feel like we did good on that project, but yeah,
we
with
probably
that.
did.
Like having quick wittedness, like being quick with your words. You also have Mars being in Capricorn is exalted, so exaltation, it has everything it needs to work and then some. So Mars being bursts of energy, power, exaltation, like being able to do what it needs to do. And like, okay, Capricorn's like, all right, cool. Let's put foundation and structure into that action so it can be completed in a ideal, thorough form. So with that, Mars and Mercury being together as they are in your chart, I don't know the exact degree right now, but it's just like having quick comebacks, but having, I want to say, do you think that they're like timed, like having good time with your comebacks, so you know like when to let
Mm-hmm.
them bitches hurt, like.
Oh, oh yes, I'd be meticulous about it. If I want it to hurt, at least. But usually, for the quick-wittedness, like in the moment, because I like storytelling and I live for laughs, so I kind of want the timing of it to be funny. So I choose that intentionally sometimes. But I don't know. I feel like it's something I do both without thinking about it and thinking about it at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I see it with having Mercury and Mars and Capricorn, like having structure and being able to think about it. On top of that, you have your moon and Gemini, so that intellectual aspect of feeling, and having your Mars and Mercury and Capricorn being grounded, like, okay, having idea, like, all right, you know what you're going to say and how you're going to communicate. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
me, I have Mercury and Mars and Scorpio and a emotional water sign, as well as having my moon in Cancer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so feelings. So it's just like, yeah, this shit can be quick witted, but also my Mercury is retrograde, so it's internalized, so it might not even come off. So it's like, ooh, I've thought of this. I thought what I could fucking say after the fact, what takes place. But that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. We will get back to that later. But having your Mars in the second house, just talking about that, how do you feel like that is coming with like drive and value for yourself? Like you've been able to establish that like things gotten better with time observing, especially I want to say having a, I think about the association with Mars and the fact of knowing that if you put the traditional astrology aspect to it, your chart is a night chart. So, who's on your team within a night chart, having it below the horizon? You have the moon, Venus, and Mars on your team. And Mars is in your second house. So, it's able to function the way it needs to, as well as be beneficial to you. So, having it in your second house, how do you feel it's been with like finances and drive? Because I know for me, like, being a Sag rising, having Capricorn in the second house, I've known multiple times growing up with finances, I would put my thumb over the like account balance as it opened up. I'm like, hey, we don't need that. We don't need that negativity. We don't need that. But also, like I would no lie see like a fear, like a sense of fear relative to like security and stuff. But I feel like as I've gotten older, especially now after getting through my Saturn return and having a financial analyst help me, that finances aren't scary. It's just really take, like you said, time, taking the time to put into it. But I want to hear your like your thoughts relative to it because you have
Hmm.
that there.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times my approach to finances is kind of living below your means. And part of that is because I enjoy experiences. And so I want to make sure I have extra money off to the side to splurge on those experiences. So, like, my usual stuff is like, well, or at least well within, what I can afford, if not below that, so that I don't have to worry about, you know, am I going to make things ends meet, basically. And I mean, and like I said before, like my mom pretty much raised us to make sure that we were aware of our finances and stuff. So I think after that, having that and then going to college and then basically having to manage my own money, but like with a safety net, just helped prepare me for basically whenever I was on my own and like end up having to move out to Texas away from all of my family and then having to do things like everything by myself. Um, and so I don't think I ever, the only time I usually am not excited to look at what my bank statement says is during the month of December because I splurge on myself because it's my birthday month. And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I also have to buy presents and I don't want to see what it looks like right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Usually, whenever I don't want to look in there and see the damage that I have done because I become the embodiment of that meme where it says Black women with good jobs spend money like drug dealers. That is me in December. So I don't want to see what I did then. But outside of that, like even now, like I feel like I've been pretty good about it, but I think because I did my best to stay like below my means for whatever income I had coming in, I was able to get to a point where like it's a little bit passive where I know my accounts are good, but I'm not actively managing it. But now I'm trying to do a little bit better about that and like actually look at what my budget is and pay more attention to like where my funds are going and what they're doing more specifically, partially because I want to be able to know exactly how much I'm putting into crypto and like other investments besides the US dollar. So
Sure.
yeah,
That's
that
pretty
sounds very fucking Capricorn now that I say that out
good.
loud.
Hey, I mean, it's a whole look. The title of the show is Capricorn's daughter relative to this. So
Hmm.
you have sixth place
Hmm.
Capricorn, so it's all good. No worries. You make it work, definitely, because yeah, it's something with finances. Like stuff that you tell me, I'm like, oh, that's adulting. Like those are big, big words. I don't think I'm ready for those, but we're gonna get
Man.
there. We're gonna get there. But I would say, okay, so this is one thing I know, like we didn't discuss, but not to catch you off guard, but it's like an idea of Capricorn that I've read is that understanding that even without the applause, you still have your accolades for yourself. Like being able to understand when to engage with the public, but also having when it's like, all right, this is too much, to have that time to draw back, but not be lonely. How is that? Like,
Mhm.
what is that for you? Is that what do you think about that? Because I read that in a book. It's like Stephen Forrest's astrology book, like the exact title, but that's something about Capricorn. It's like knowing when to step into the light spot, not the spotlight, but yeah, step into the spotlight, but also have that capability of balancing, like, okay, not to get too attached to it. So
Mhm.
being able, like, yeah, yeah.
I feel like part of that balance comes one from knowing that I don't think I would ever really want to be in a position of having fame because I don't like people enough and for people to be like coming up to me. So that kind of keeps me like, I'm okay not being in the spotlight very often, like I'm okay getting my accolades behind the scenes if, the people that know that I did the work acknowledge it. Like I can be completely fine with that. And then unless it's something big, then I'm like, yeah, make sure my name is on that shit. Um, but the other thing too is just like I think partially I just put the value in like whatever the project was that was done for and I'm like if it comes out well, I'm okay, not being super in the spotlight. But also I do have like a little bit of social anxiety. So sometimes I don't really wanna be in the spotlight because of that reason. And then at least now for like work purposes, I do notice that one, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I want to make sure that if I'm going to be going up to say something, that it's correct. And the other thing too for work, it requires me to, well, I think they have a preference of if I'm a little bit more political with the things that I say, but I'm like, why don't we just say what it is? Because then it makes it easier for everybody to understand. And that doesn't really like go over well with my bosses sometimes for
I get
PR type of deal. But I just, you know, I'm like, if I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna say what I have to say, and it's gonna be what the situation is. So if you don't want me to say what the situation is, you should leave me in the back,
and I
kind
feel
of.
like that definitely is your Mars, Mercury, Mars, and Sun. Mercury, Mars, and Sun in Capricorn, like literally. together like this. Like,
Mm.
if you're gonna give me the spotlight, cool. I'm gonna say what I need to say and get the fuck on. I don't know what state it's gonna leave you in, but I'm gonna say what I got to say. So throughout this conversation so far, I understand relative to finances, you spoke about your mom, and I understand that you've told me that your mom is a Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And astrology, understanding that Capricorn and Cancer are on the same spectrum. They're known as sister signs. But with having Mars recently go retrograde back into Cancer, and Cancer is the fall of Mars. So with Capricorn being exaltation, it's knowing what to do, straightforward initiation. Cancer, on the other hand, you think of a crab, like it goes side to side. It's not very decisive initiation. It might procrastinate before it moves forward in decision making, but fuck around with its family or mess with something, then guns a blazing straight out. Think of a mama bear. If you attack its cubs,
Mm-hmm.
I'll come at you. So
Mm-hmm.
with having Mars retrograde in the opposite house of your second house of your finances, eighth house is associated with other people's finances, potential inheritances, ideally some people say sex, death, taxes. How do you feel with that navigating so far? And with Mars, it works for you within a night chart, but having the potential idea of having hiccups or potential issues when it comes to navigating finances of others, of, I want to say close relationships, not like out there, but it's having association with yours. How do you feel with that? Like it, oppositions, ideally, you need to have a balance, or it's like a sense of reflection. So, how is it with you navigating that opposing sign of Cancer?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a lot. I'm sorry.
I definitely felt like the little meme of the lady doing the math in her head a little bit. But so like, okay, let me ask a clarifying question. Is this in relation to just the finances or just like in
I
general?
would say just in general, like I would say it can life, just navigating life, because Mars, it did that earlier, like around like September to November. So if you go
Mm-hmm.
back to then, like how it was navigating forward, so some things that took place then you might be having pop up now. So I guess that was a twofold question. So navigating the opposing sign Cancer just in general natally, and then
Mm-hmm.
how is it just having Mars go back into the eighth house?
What does it mean whenever the opposing sign is operating natally? Like, how would that impact me? You know?
It's more so like reflection. Like ideally, if you lean more so into like, let's put Libra in the middle for scales. If you lean so more into one sign, you have the opposing sign. You see that more so in your day to day. So like Capricorn,
Mm-hmm.
you have that energy like six planets down in your second house. You have nothing. You have nothing in your eighth house. So it's naturally teetering that way. So how is it with that maternal, that sense of nurturing and security, like the archetypes of Cancer is like cycles? So how is it navigating cycles? How is it with the mom? Like how is it that sense of nurturing and sense of security relative? So how is it?
I don't know. And I feel like maybe part of that is because I'm usually like, feelings, gross. So
It's the Gemini moon. Bro, y'all stay at the surface so much. Like as
I
well as
mean,
as well as the fact with like Capricorn placements, I have lovely people in my family that have
mhm.
Capricorn placements. Like I'm like any Capricorn placement watching this, feel your feels. Take time to feel your feels. Don't wait till it's a fucking movie on and it's not to a specific situation, but don't wait till there's
Mhm.
passion involved for you to break down in tears relative to something that happened some years ago. Feel
On the
them
behalf
in the moment.
of the Capricorns watching, I ain't appreciate that.
Bro, like I'm just saying. Feel your, and this is coming from somebody who has a Cancer moon with a whole bunch of Scorpio placements. Depth.
Yeah.
Feel them bitches so you don't hold on to it. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
well, well. I will say that I do feel like this year, like especially the second half of the year, since it was like a lot happening in my personal life, that it kind of like forced me to have to open up. And like there was one weekend where literally like all of my triggers that I didn't even know I had fucking triggers, but all of the buttons got pushed like within the same 3 day time span. And I feel like after that I've like had to do reflection on my feelings, but which to say they be there. They just be very deep down. But they're there, and behind like several walls in between that. But like now I do feel like, because at first I was like, well, is it just because I'm getting older and now I'm like getting softer? Like, what the fuck is this? But um, especially after the second half of the year, I'm like, dang, I am like open and like definitely softer, and I feel like it's here to stay. I don't really like it, but I feel like necessary for growth. And then I've been talking about wanting to make sure that I develop my intuition a little bit more, which really involves you actually paying attention to your feelings and making sure that you're basically being able to have that discernment with that. So like on the spiritual aspect, if I want growth there, I have to grow in my feelings too. And while I don't like it, I'm gonna have to accept it, but I'm gonna complain about it while it's here.
I mean, that look, it's understandable. You have your moon in the seventh house of other people and close relationships. So
Mm,
feelings will be there with people. You just have to be able to take the time to express them and write them down. It'll be okay.
maybe,
It'll be okay.
maybe.
The idea of stoicism, I don't know much about it. I've read, I think I have a book. I downloaded a book off of the Apple bookstore about stoicism, like you can read a page each and every day. I did not keep up with that. I think I got in 2024 and never read it. Yeah, never read it. So, still there, but what do you think about stoicism? What is your take on that?
I feel like it's kind of something that I've always admired, but I don't think I actually realized that I was doing it until much later. Um, but also part of it, why I know like growing up, it was probably the case where I was exhibiting it was just because I don't think it at that time necessarily classified as stoicism unless you were like outside looking in type of deal.
Mm.
Just because I switched schools a lot, so I didn't know anybody. So I just kind of stuck to myself and was in the back of the classroom reading books, you know, and just like watching with my hoodie up in the dark corner of the classroom. Kind
I'm so sorry.
of.
I'm so sorry. Because I just pictured that and I'm just like, like she
I
was.
have a picture that I can send to you that you'll be like, damn, yeah, that's what you said. I'm gonna find it. It's like buried deep on one of my. I'm not even gonna say it on here. I'm gonna find it and send it to you.
Okay.
But um, yeah, but and like whenever they would have those characters on those or the characters exhibiting those traits on like shows and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, that's me. Like that's my guy. But I guess I kind of still vibe with it now. And I do have like one of my friends that talks about stoicism a lot in terms of like trying to instill that as like part of a good character, essentially. So like, you know, things come at you, but you don't really let it affect you so that you can still be effective in your everyday life. And then um, remain at your center and not let anything basically knock you off of your square, essentially, as the basis of it. And just kind of maintaining that sense of calm and steadfastness, which, yeah, I guess maybe I exhibit that already just because I know for me, I think I am like the strong friend of the group a lot of times, or like someone that people come to, and I just be like, oh, I don't know if they really understand the turmoil that's going on right now in my head. But then again, it's probably because it's buried under 7 layers of concrete, of steel door, and then also a moat. And then you get to the feelings at the bottom of all that shit. So on the surface, it looks very calm, you know, uh, if things are going on. But and it doesn't, not to say that's like what it's like all the time, but like if it is, I'm just like, well, it is what it is. So what's on the to-do list for today? Because it crying about is not going to change it. So onward, I think is kind of how I approach it, and then have that become a character trait that ends up developing outwardly.
Okay, cause yeah, that I don't think that's me. I'm so like people be like, yeah, you seem so calm. I'm just like, do I appreciate that because maybe yeah,
Yo,
maybe some.
I remember like one time when I was the vice president for the grad chapter, and somebody had like messed up the order for the number of shirts that we got. And so I was like, do you need 20 minutes to go sit somewhere and like freak out or cry or do whatever you have to do, because we have to get these orders out to everybody who asks for one, and we have to do that today. So take your 20 minutes and come back when you're ready. And he was like, okay. I don't think he ever took the 20 minutes. Just I think he was just like, let me get my shit together, because this girl just said this shit to me. But yeah, that's kind of, yeah,
I feel it. I
that
feel.
sums it up.
I feel it. As somebody who has the moon in Cancer, nah, like feeling cycle, like
Uh,
it's like they're there, their feelings, expressing them. Like Scorpio, all the placements, like, I don't know them, like, can't
hmm,
ready like that.
not here, not
But
here.
it's just like can talk, can definitely talk. But I feel like that's the difference between like having you have a Gemini moon or communicating, like having the intellectual aspect of oh sadness. Okay, we go and it's like sadness. But characters. What do you think of like characters relative to Capricorn? Because when you thought like you gave the picture in my head of just having a hoodie on in the back corner, it made me think of Raven from Teen Titans. Just like,
Bitch,
yeah.
that's my girl. Yes, Azarath, Metro, and Zinthos all day. But for me to actually pick one, um, let me see. Can I go through like a couple, or do
Yeah,
I just have to pick?
no,
Okay,
sure. Like, you got it.
because there's like two that immediately come to mind. Um, like one of them is like Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I feel like partially because Earth sign, Earthbender, and definitely has that tough exterior, but then like very deep, deep down under there, she's like actually be caring and everything. And then you get like a glimpse of it, and then she's like, "All right, shut up, Twinkle Toes, on to the next thing." And yeah, yeah, definitely tough. And then another one is like Shikamaru, I feel like, from Naruto, because he's like hella intellectual about everything, but you don't really like see. I gotta, it's been a while since I watched like the original portion of it, but like you don't actually get to see him display any type of feelings for as much as I can recall until Asuma died, and then like it's like, oh, he's got feelings and stuffs. But before that, he's just like, this is such a drag. Everything is stupid. All these people are stupid. And I just be like, yeah, I'm with him. That's what
I feel that. Like, those are some good ones. Those are definitely some good ones. Like another one I thought, of course, like I put it on the first Capricorn post of like all these little memes that I had relative to Capricorn that I think of. It's just like Levi from Attack
yeah,
on Titan. Like that whole scene of him just like literally saying, ideally needing discipline. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn all day.
All
Like
day.
that, the fact that he was short, like they said that if he was in normal situations, he would have been taller. So that also contributes to bones relative to Capricorn too. Like Capricorn relative to the body is associated with bones, and then Aquarius is associated with the nerves, like networks, because it's like spaced out and everything.
Yeah.
So that is like the differences between Capricorn and Aquarius, where Capricorn is more so like straight up challenges, hurdles, heels, but you're still going up. Aquarius is like networking, outreach, all that
Got
community.
you.
So
Spreading.
yeah.
Got you. Got you. That's cool.
I think that's pretty much ideally what I wanted to cover with this episode. I guess it's an episode, it's a show, but
I
I
mean,
don't.
it's the first show.
That's true. Like being able to hear from you about like more depth of how it is to have 6 placements in Capricorn and going
Mm-hmm.
into detail about quality. No lie, I'm cutting this. Like this is getting cut up in content. So yes, you can
Got
use.
you.
But yeah, that is. This is nice. I really appreciate this because it helps me learn, and then you learn, they learn, whoever's learning, we all learning, and I think that's like really the thing of Sag Rising. It's like wanting to be able to share information with people, but I like for people to share
Mm-hmm.
information together. So it's like, hey, you got this, you use it, cool. You don't, whatever. Glad you watched. But yeah, we will do this. We will do this again. All right then, man. We can get off of this and talk
All
offline.
right.
But it's been a pleasure talking
Well,
here.
yes, I'm honored to be your first, guest on your In Your Element show.
Thank you. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
We
So
need
yeah,
a jingle.
that is true.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We're starting off. It's foundations. It's Capricorn season. We're putting foundations down. Like
Shay.
that's what we're doing. That
Ashe.
is what we're doing. So Ashe.
There you go.
Thank you. So all right,
All
girl.
right.
I'll talk to you off of this.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Also, shout out to my cousin for showing up.
Oh
Okay.
shit. Yes. Okay. Also, if you want to plug anything, like this is the time, like definitely plug it. Put it out there. Promote it.
I guess I'll go ahead and plug that, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna be this year trying to work on actually designing my backyard, which is like around a third of an acre, to being a food forest or a permaculture system. And it's gonna be a slow process, but I'm gonna try to start implementing and then documenting it as I go. I already started with like my worm bin just to like kind of get me in the mode of making videos about stuff. My next one is that I'm planning on doing like this next week or so. I might probably just do it like a poll because I bought like a bunch of different types of seeds to grow for this coming year. One, just to get my experience of actually growing stuff while I'm working on my designs and understanding like placements of plant guilds and stuff like that. But also just to like start having stuff growing and improving the soil like as I go along. But I think I might do a poll of like, which 5 things should I definitely try to grow first that you guys want to see? Because I also get indecisive, which I found it was funny you said that about cancers, because maybe it's just because I have a Capricorn and then a Gemini placement, which one is like, yes, we're doing it, and the other one's like, I want to be free. Um, and just opposing in that manner. But I get indecisive about making decisions sometimes, so I might do a poll and if like what people want to see and how to grow it. So in the next week or so, because I need to start planning now so that it's ready for the spring. But yeah,
Well, let me know. I'll definitely put it out and promote it. So,
for
all
sure.
right. I'm looking forward to learning more about it. As well as just like, I guess another thing is just like the full moon is in Cancer. It happens on the 13th. So that will be opposing your placement sign wise, but degree wise, it'll be more towards the end of Cancer. So a lot of your placements won't feel it. Probably like your Neptune and Uranus because they're at 20 and 21 degrees. So be mindful, attentive of that. Like relative to releasing of emotions or culmination and completion relative to people's finances. But it's Mars Mars is there too. So really be attentive to that, as well as energy. When Mars and Neptune are together, it's just like it might feel like a sense of draining of energy, like surprise shocks, Uranus, Neptune. So yes, be attentive to how you
Mm-hmm.
spend your energy with other
That,
people.
okay. I'll be prepared.
All right. Well, all right, girl. We will talk after. Thank you for
All
being.
right. You're
Bye.
welcome. Peace.
Bye.